Hi, I'm Tom and I talk about code. Welcome to another programming live stream. Today we are taking a break from Rust and we're going to write some JavaScript for something different. If I want to have a really good web experience for using my virtual machine, I need to level up my front-end game. So today we're going to try and start building something with Vue.js. I have been messing around a little bit off camera and I've set up, just kind of the example project, the hello with a counter, which is defined a little something like this. I've got a component. It has state, which is a counter. When you click the thing, the counter goes up. Beautiful, simple. And immediately I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, this ref function does a lot of heavy lifting. Can I wrap a virtual machine in a ref? And I suspect the answer is no, but I want to find out. So we're going to have to copy our WASM into this file structure somehow. I'm a little overwhelmed because this immediately made a lot of files when I scaffolded this out. And I don't know, I kind of know what they all are, but I haven't really done this for a while. So we're gonna see. I think if I put stuff in the public folder, that's kind of like our static assets. So let's copy my virtual machine into there as a first step. And then we're gonna kind of draw out a plan for how we interact with it. So, if you're jumping into this as a JavaScript person, you haven't seen any of my Rust videos, I'm building a 16-bit virtual machine in Rust. And we're gonna interact with it via JavaScript today. It exports everything into WASM. www pkg simple VM. We're going to put that in public. Cool. So we've just vendored this in for now, and that's okay. That's okay. That's really cool. And we need to think about how we actually consume that, but that's also okay. That's also okay. So let's make a proper plan. Okay, let's think about what we're actually doing here. Currently, when I use my virtual machine, I have a little site. It has a little. It's kind of something like this, right? Let's say we have a window. There's a bit of header information up here, like a title, and then there's an area where you write code, and an area where you see the state of the virtual machine. So this could mean, if there's a virtual screen, you might see some stuff on this. You get the state of the registers, and then you also get a view of the stack. Cool. And this is pretty good. It's pretty simple. Everything's just very plain JavaScript and it works surprisingly well, but there's a lot of back and forward. For example, to update anything, right? Anytime we click a button, we kind of need to do a lot of document get element by ID and take this thing out of here and do something with it and then put it in the machine, which is kind of, conceptually on this side. And it turns out there are tools for doing that better, right? Specifically, we can use events and reactivity, hopefully, to represent the flow of this program a bit better. So let's draw a slightly different version of what this might look like, right? This is version 0. Okay, let's say what version 1, what we want it to look like, where we want this to go eventually. And let's draw straight lines because we're doing a serious design here. Except this one. This line isn't straight. This line, well, it's straight, but there's a little discontinuity. That's okay. That's okay. So I want it to be a little bit better. And one of the main things I want to be able to do is to have some kind of problem posed on this page, right? So first off, some kind of navigation, perhaps at the top, perhaps at the side, 50-50 on where it should maybe ideally live. But I'm going to go with the top for now and make it small, right? Some sense of maybe there's like a menu button on the side. We won't have a pop-out menu yet, but maybe at some point we want something that can pop out that has like options. This is going to be vaguely SPA-ish, but it's not going to be an SPA. We're going to have actual navigation. Maybe like a forward and a back button, because there will be problems to solve that you will solve in some kind of order, right? And then maybe the name of the problem, maybe it'll be like hello world. Hello world, right? So it looks something like this. You'll navigate around. There's going to be no user accounts. So the idea is that you're going to just go through a series of problems, solve them using the virtual machine. There'll also be some kind of like playground where there's no objective. And then we're going to stick to the 2-column view because I think that's really cool. Or are we? So we're gonna have some kind of like tabbed view for moving between things, especially, let's say maybe like this. We probably won't have fancy tabs, but there'll be a ASM tab where you can write assembly directly. There'll be a code tab where you can write code, and there'll be maybe a bin tab where you can like look at the binary. I think that would be kind of cool. Where are we? This is up here, right? So something like this, something like this. Something's vibrating near me. That's a little weird. Sounds like my phone's ringing, but it isn't. Cool. And then on the right side, maybe we'll have something that explains the problem, right? We'll have maybe the expected output. Okay, and then we'll probably have 3 buttons that say, maybe 3, maybe less. We're gonna have a run. We're gonna have a debug. Maybe that's it. And debug is going to be essentially what run currently is. Run is going to kind of run and test against what's happening. This is going to scroll independently, by the way. This is going to have its own scroll. Let's try and notate that where we can, because that's currently an issue in the current version of it, right? And then we'll have our state here. This is not mobile friendly. This is not mobile friendly. In a mobile world, this probably collapses into 1 column as opposed to 2, and it'd probably work well enough. But we're not really thinking about mobile here because it's going to be based around typing stuff in. And so this is kind of like our state, the state of our VM. Excellent, excellent. Now, when we think about data in this, there's going to be a few important things. One is going to be that, well, for one thing, ASM and code, these are going to live together. You're going to have the option of writing assembly and code together. So there will be 2 different buffers. Bin is what's kind of compiled, what's kind of run. So maybe bin isn't always here. Maybe bin only makes sense if we're actually running. So let's put a question mark around that. Okay, good, good. But the ability to move back and forward from the compiled binary to the code and the assembly while you're in maybe the debug mode, that would be really cool. So maybe this is conditionally rendered, okay? That sounds good. That sounds like a good idea. I like this kind of format. I like this layout. I think this will work well. I think this has a lot of potential. And yeah, the idea is that we're going to have an ASM buffer, let's call it B0, and a code buffer, let's call it B1. And when we compile, we combine these things together into one final binary. Okay. Now, compile is going to trigger data to go. Compile is going to trigger data to move from the editor into the machine and kind of initialize a new machine to run. It's going to create a new machine every time. I think that makes sense, rather than just resetting the same one. Or do we? Actually, no. No. That's incorrect. That's incorrect. Not only is that wasteful for resources, because we might want several megabytes of memory for our machine, but we want, so compile, load into VM. Once something's loaded into the virtual machine, we can probably show this binary, right? That's probably the condition for if this binary tab is shown. Has something been compiled? Can we compile it? So maybe there's another button that says compile. That sounds reasonable. And that's kind of like a state change, right? So run and debug, maybe we say, hey, there's no program loaded, right? You need to hit compile first. And you might want to hit compile first. Or maybe these implicitly hit compile, but you can also just hit compile and see what happens and get the errors and whatnot. Now, one of the things we don't have here are room for errors, but maybe this is also compiler error, because if you have a compiler error, you don't have any current running state. I think this can be one or the other. So when we compile, we load things into the VM. That changes what things are visualized. It changes what's visualized here. It changes that this is visualized. And And then we also, if we're debugging, we want different buttons to step through a program. So debug is also going to kind of change the state of this if we're debugging or not. Okay, that was a lot of things. That was a lot of thoughts. Let's see if we can start to build something that looks vaguely like this. Let's see if we can do it. And if we look at what we have so far, right, we have an app component, if I swap my scene correctly, which I'm going to remember to do, actually. In fact, I can remember to do it. Okay, yeah, no, that's cool, that's cool. Sorry, I'm checking some messages in the background. So, let's see if we can do it. Let's see if we can do it. The first thing we have is some kind of header. So let's put a header. I think header goes outside main in semantic HTML. We'll find out. We're gonna have an H1 or an H2 perhaps that says problem name, right? Because the idea of this is to give people an environment where they can learn about the machine through a series of increasingly complicated programming problems. Okay, so, and the cool thing is we can actually visualize this as we go. We can also import CSS, I think, and I can't remember quite how that works. With component CSS, can I just search this for CSS? Scoped CSS. Yeah, so this is like, there's some real nerd stuff in Vue that I don't really understand. Style. So we can do scoped styles. That's interesting. Import. Yeah. No, that's not it. I can't remember how this worked. Okay. Script setup. Let's just put a style here. Let's say style scoped. Style. Because we just want a bit of CSS that'll apply directly to these things. And we'll say H2. We'll maybe say header. So how does this look if I do this? Of course, yep, our header, we want it to take up the entire width of the page, and that is incorrect because it needs a semicolon, which is also very funny. Okay, so now we're cooking, this is gonna have two buttons either side of it. So we'll say button, and the button will say prev, and we'll have a button after this for next. We're gonna break these things out into components as we go, right? We're gonna just get a rough skeleton of the page first. Display inline block. Oh, and H2 is also I want this to be inline block. So this is interesting, right? This is a really interesting way of thinking about this because I've never really written CSS like this before where it's kind of scoped. So this is, if we look, this is vaguely going towards the place that we want to be here. It's going to look very weird in black and white, but we're moving towards this world. Okay, so the next big thing to kind of think about is this grid alignment. And I'm going to check in with what I've already done because that is much more efficient than doing it again from scratch. If we look at my existing Rust project, we're not going to look at any Rust, okay? If anyone watching this is a fan of, oh, that's right, I'm using Pico. I'm using Pico CSS for this. That's why different. If you're a JavaScript fan and you're scared of Rust, there will be no Rust in this stream, okay? I'm going to keep my, it's like having, I don't know where I'm going with this analogy. It's like having gluten, right? Gluten's gonna, you can't have a gluten thing touch a non-gluten thing and still call it gluten-free. You have to keep them very separate. I keep my Rust and my JavaScript very, very separate. Okay, so let's forget I opened that. Let's forget I opened that first thing. We're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it. Now, what's a good way to do two columns? Can flexbox two column. Is there a good way to do this with Flexbox? Flexbox is one of these things that I really want to learn, and I've just never really done it. Like, Flexbox didn't exist when I learned HTML and CSS, so I've never really learned it. So we're going to quickly do this thing. Properties for the children, properties for the parent, flex container. 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 flex direction. Yeah. Okay. So properties for the children, flex items, order. But okay, so let's make a div, and let's call this div. Let's make it a column layout div. Okay, we're gonna put all of our main content in here. We're gonna have our main things in here. So we'll have col layout. We'll say flex. Sorry, what is it? Display flex. And let's just put some stuff in here for now and see what the default is, and then go from here. We want to play with the defaults and explore and iterate. So let's make a div. Let's give it an ID, maybe. You know what? Let's actually, do I break out? No, okay, let's make a div. We'll give it a class, editor. We'll just give it the class editor. And we'll put a text area in there. It'll have 80 columns and 40 rows. Like this. Okay. Cool. So that's nice and big. And it only takes up half the thing, which is interesting. Oh, because it only has 80 columns. That's 80 if we actually counted that out. Okay, so then we're going to have a second div, and this is going to be the state. The first thing we're going to have inside this is a div, which is going to have like h3. Hello world to the console device. It'll be something like this. You know, we'll have some description of a problem to solve. We can see it here. And so actually this looks perfect. This looks really perfect. We're not going to have a second text area, but this is actually literally exactly what I wanted. So that's pretty great. With this 2-column layout, kind of came for free. Kind of free. So we're going to have this div. We're going to have another div, which is going to be like our button container. And this is going to have a button. The first button is going to be, it's going to be submit, maybe. And then we'll have a button called run, called debug, and then one called compile, maybe. This hopefully looks okay. Submit, debug, compile, nice. That's vaguely what we have here. And then we'll have another div. And this will just have like a compiler error on line, except error only has 2 R's. I know sometimes you can have a really bad error, but that doesn't mean you put 3 R's in the word. Compiler error on line 21. Let's do that. Cool. Okay, so this is like the roughest possible mock-up, except I really want this to just like, well, actually, hold on. It appears to, so what if I say this has more columns? What if I say this has 150 columns? It really squishes everything else out. So what if I shrink the window? Does it, at a certain point, does it wrap? Okay, this never pops to the new line, so that's a bit of a problem. But this feels like a good place to start. This was like a really good place to start. Let's get rid of the button, right? And the state. We'll keep the ref import. So this is nice. This is nice. Now, before this text area, we need a few extra things. And we're just going to do buttons for now. Eventually, I'll make them look nicer with tabs, but we're just going to make them little buttons. So I'll have a button. The first button is going to be called ASM, because this is going to be for where you write assembly. We're going to have a button called code for where you write code. And we'll have a button called bin for where you view the binary, and then you'll be able to swap between them. This is going to be good. This is going to be exciting. And then we're going to have 3 text areas, but they'll only be shown conditionally based on which thing. So the editor is the first obvious thing that we're going to split out as a component. Okay, so let's do that. Let's import, and I'm going to double check. I'm checking as I go here. Component import. Let's do this. Import editor from, let's say import editor from editor.vue. I think they have capital letter names files by default, and I kind of hate this. I kind of hate capital letters and names. So I'm going to buck convention and just do this. So we want a script section and we want a template section. And I think that's it. I don't think we'll need a style section straight away, but we'll keep the idea for now. So we're going to import ref. Okay, and this is going to get swapped out for an editor, but not yet. So actually, let's do it one step at a time. Let's do it one step at a time and say editor. Okay, and the template just gets this, and hopefully Vite has handled this. Yes, nice. So let me just, to prove that it works, change a letter, and we can see that it comes across here. Beautiful. So now we can start to do clever things. Let's make a few variables. Let's say state, maybe? State equals we'll have 3 different states. So we'll have state ASM, which will be 0. We'll have state code, which will be 1, and we'll have state bin, which is going to be 2. Okay, so state is going to be ref state ASM. And we'll have a couple of on clicks. So on click equals, and I think, no, sorry, it has to be at click equals state equals state ASM. Beautiful. So we're going to do these. Click equals state code, and click state equals state bin. Beautiful. Now, we need these to be visible if the state is correct, right? So we want 3 editors here. ASM code bin, except this isn't actually going to be a text area, but we'll make it a text area for now. But we want their visibility to be conditional. Where did that go? Here. So where do we have a couple of things. Refs, template syntax. This is what I want. So attribute bindings, and we just use a colon. So what this looks like, right? What this looks like, we say visible there's actually a section for this, I think. Conditional rendering, yeah. If conditionally render a block. Okay, so that's better. If state equals state ASM. Beautiful. Sorry, I just need to quickly check my phone because I have some people coming over in an hour. Sorry, one of my friends is just asked if she can bring tomato sauce in case we get chips, and that is a very specific and very unexpected question, but we'll roll with that. I'm going to copy and paste here because I think that's quicker. So if state equals state code and state bin, and then we'll just change these back to code and bin, and this is going to work. This is going to be fine. Wow, and it literally just works. Just works. Kind of crazy. Kind of magic, right? It feels a little bit magic that this is so simple. So before I was doing all this like document get element by ID, blah, 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 unmaintainable nonsense. And now it just works. Phenomenal, phenomenal. Hope everyone's feeling good about reactivity. That's really cool. That's really cool. Now this looks a little confusing because we're assigning and then testing, and it's all, these look a little too similar for me, but I'm sure that will only bite me later on. Now, here's another thing we want, okay? Can I, hold on, text area. Interpolation inside text area work. The model. This is what I want. Okay, so we're gonna const And I think I literally just make this a ref again. So let's say const ASM code state, ASM input state equals ref. It's just going to be empty string, or maybe we'll just say system system 0 FO system 0 0, I guess. Let's do that. And then we'll have code input state, and this will say int main void main cool. So now instead of this being actually containing text, we're gonna tie it to a variable. In this case the variable will be ASM input state. In this case the input will be code input state, and I think this has to be in quotes, otherwise it's gonna scream at me. Cool. So the code one doesn't seem to work. Because it helps when you actually type the word correctly. The model. Cool. Nice, nice. We'll put 2 spaces here. So we have a code, we have some assembly, and then we have a binary that we can edit, but we shouldn't be able to. This should actually be maybe a pre-formatted if. We'll get rid of the rows and cols, and we'll say like 0 0 add a 0. Right, add 0 to A, in other words, no up. Okay, but we want this to be the same width. We want all these things to be the same width. So this is where it gets harder. So this is a gap in my HTML knowledge. HTML5 width of text area. Do width and height actually affect it, or do I have to do it with rows cols? Both. Required and useful. Huh. Okay. Okay. So can I say width 100%? Right, this is the kind of thing I don't know about Flexbox. If I say the width, if I want to set the width of this thing to 100%, will it take up the whole page, or will it understand that I want it to be 2? I think right now it's going to take up the whole page. Excuse me 1 second, I'm getting a call. I'm getting a call. Wow, that was a journey. That was a journey. Cool, okay. So we're back. That was a much longer break than I anticipated, but we're back and we're gonna get as much done as we can before anything happens. Okay, so we're gonna do another style block, another scoped style block, right? Scoped, that's only scoped to this one component, which is cool, which I really enjoy this. I really enjoy this. So we're gonna style all of our text areas, and we're gonna make them width 100%, and we're gonna see what this does. Okay, we're gonna see what this does when I look at our app. Okay, so this is interesting. I don't know what's going on. That's what's interesting here. Infinite Coder 01, hello Vue.js. Yeah, we're doing front end. I am building towards this. I've got my rough skeleton of HTML with no styling applied, and we're going to pick bits out one at a time and do components. So we can swap between a couple of different views here, and this is much nicer. All of my front end before was document.getElementById, and now it is all reactive. We're doing reactive. We're doing state, and state is a lot better. It's crazy that I was doing it all with document.getElementById. Document.getElementById is freaking fantastic. You can do a lot with it. I need to keep half an eye on my messages because friends will be here at some point quite soon. But we're going to get as much done as we can before then. So what is going on with width? Now, Flexbox, okay? Flex direction row, this is the default, this is what we want. Flex wrap. We want to allow flex wrap. So we want to go back to our main thing. We want to say flex wrap wrap. We want to allow wrapping. That would be good. That would be good. Top to bottom. Flex flow. That's cool. I like that there's a shorthand for that. Let me make this bigger so people can see what I'm reading. Also, I like that this page has a 2-column layout, which is what I'm trying to do. Okay, so space between, space around, I think is what I want. Justify content, space around. Justify content, space around. Let's do that. Let's do that. Align items flex start. This stretch is the default. We can do with stretch. We can do with stretch. Align content. Blah 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 blah. That's okay as well. We don't care. Gap. Let's put a gap in. So gap is a property. Let's say gap 5px. Let's see how this is looking. Let's see how this is looking. Nice. Okay. So this is immediately broken because this I think goes to width 100%. Maybe. Or maybe this goes to width 100%. So yeah, if I change the width, it pops back. I don't know why this is now suddenly. Okay, so this is what the current state of the 2-column setup looks like. What is this? Am I doing something between coding game and LeetCode? Kind of, yeah. I want to have a series of problems as an introduction to this virtual machine. Eventually, I want this to be backend, where you can like submit solutions and have scores and compare them. Kind of taking inspiration from Zachtronics, like TAS 100. I think that's really cool. I want to be able to have little problems and people can use the machine and compare answers. I think that's when people will then be interested in using this machine. And I think a simple 16-bit virtual machine is a fun and interesting thing to program. Especially where you can step through and see every instruction, right? I think you can learn a lot about computers from that kind of environment. This has been my goal from the start. Like, this is the whole reason I was interested in building a virtual machine and a programming language that compiled for it to begin with. So yeah, this is what I've been doing the whole time. The Rust was just a side quest. If I wanted to really do it, I wouldn't have done it in Rust. So learning Rust was a good bonus, but we're taking the long way. We're taking the long way. Okay, so let's look at what is going on. So we want inside this thing, properties of the children. Order, I don't really understand order. Laid out in source order property controls, and blah, blah, blah. So order is okay. If necessary, grow if necessary. So there's a proportion. The remaining space in the container will be distributed equally to all children. Ah, okay, so we want them to all have 1, right? We want them to all take up the same rough proportion of code. Shrink seems to be the equivalent the equivalent inverse. I don't really understand. We'll get to that. Flex basis. Okay, here we go. So I think I want the flex basis default size of an element. It can be a length or a keyword. Order means look at my type property. Let's try setting flex basis to 0. Let's say. So in the child, so we want column layout. So can I put a class on this? Is that allowed? I hope this is legal. Let's call it column element, I guess. Say column element. Actually, can I style elements? Can I say editor? Can I do this? That would be really cool. Editor, and I want this to be flex. Did I say flex basis? Flex base. Let's say flex basis 50% and see what happens. I don't know how Flexbox works, and this is becoming evident. So let's go into. I'm sure Vite plays nice when I do this. Oh, this is going to be really gross, isn't it? If I look at this column layout editor, does it have styles? It doesn't have any styles applied. What is going on here? So this does, this doesn't. So it looks like I actually can't do that. Let's say column element. Can I do this? Can I actually apply classes to a component like this? Possibly not. Possibly not. Column. Oh yeah, we've got it. Flex basis. Cool. So that does kind of work, and I can play around with the width of this thing. But only when I get below a certain point does this happen. Oh, because this probably needs, this probably needs the same, this probably also needs the column element. Just to stop it taking up as much width. Yeah, now we have 2 columns. Now we have 2 columns. All right, now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. Why is this so... Now this is too small. Now this is too small. How small? I can't really tell. So how big is this thing, right? How big is this column? Not that big. How big? Why are these so small? Why are these so freaking small? Column element. Let's also then say width 100%. This might need to be on the child of this thing, because now they take up the... This takes up the entire width. Okay, okay. So, what I think I maybe want is to say editor, this should take up width 100%. This should not take up, this should also take up width 100%. The text area should be 100% the width of the parent. So this, where are we? Column element, FlexBase, this is good. And the thing inside it is also quite wide. Now, is anything inside here too big? No. So why? If it's 50%, maybe there's not enough room to distribute, but if I make it just less, then it chews up things differently. Because I don't know, I don't understand exactly what's going on here, but it's kind of intuitive that if it's exactly 50%, it struggles to distribute everything nicely, whereas if it's 49%, you get 2 wonderful columns. Okay, okay, this is good, this is good. Let's also say the text area should have height of at least 300 pixels. We'll do height in pixels because that's gross and that's it makes people uncomfortable. Okay, so this is good. This is good. We can view the binary, we can view the code, we can view the ASM. Let's say also that we want our pre to have a slightly different background color. Pre, we want it to be, let's do a nice shade of 2E, 2E, 2E. Can I do that? Does it have to be wrapped in a... No? Background? Is that not how we do... There we go. Okay, that's too dark. That's way too dark. 01, 01, 01. Oh, wait, hold on. That's way too... F4, F4, F4. That's what I meant. A nice light gray. So now we have a little background for this. That's good. That's good. And our 2 columns kind of work. They kind of work. They're kind of good. Okay, so we have an editor. This is vaguely good. I love it. I love it. And we've got this tabbed view, which is very, very good. So this is a good start. This is a really good start. This is a cool little start. So what next? Where do we go to next? We have an editor component that allows us to edit things. We need to start to wire up some of these buttons, right? When we hit compile, the program should be compiled and it should be viewable in the binary. We also probably need a state that says has binary, right? And this button is only viewable. This button is only v if has binary. And this needs to be a ref because this is part of the reactive state, right? So now we can no longer see the binary view because we haven't hit compile. So we're going to have to interact with this component somehow, right? When we hit compile in another component, that's going to trigger some stuff in this component. It's going to extract some data and then insert some more data. So in our components, we want to try and learn something. We probably want to learn about events, some kind of passing props, spinning blog. Maybe, I mean, this is okay, right? So when we pass data in, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Listening to events. Now, this is where we want things to happen, right? We want some kind of event. Some features are good. Back up to the parent. Yes. Parent, we can support this feature by adding a post font size ref. So post font size 1, font size blah, blah, blah. So we have a reactive style, which is good. For post, blah, blah, blah. So this is the same thing. Add a button to enlarge the text. Doesn't do anything yet. Okay, so we want clicking the button to communicate to the parent that it should enlarge the text to a post. Components provide custom event system. Parent can choose to listen to any event with V on or at. Nice. This is good. This is fairly easy to understand. This is why I like Vue. So when we use it, but this is almost the opposite of what I want, but that's okay. That's okay. This isn't quite as contained as I was hoping, right? But this is good. So let's add our next component. Let's start with this first. So import, we'll call it maybe the, what do we call it? Controls, machine control. Okay. So now instead of this div, we'll have a machine control component. Now we'll edit source, control.view. Nice. And this is also funny because at no point do I actually say it's called this, but just by the merit of making a template in a named .view file, I guess it just kind of infers that, it only exports one thing. We're importing by name, so that is what it's called. Okay, so now this should look the same, right? And this is good. And just to confirm it works, I'll change a letter, and we see that is reflected immediately without even reloading the page. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So we want to emit an event, and that's where we were up to here. That's where we were up to here. And all we do is emit. That's really cool. So when we click this button, all we do is we say emit and the name of an event, and that name is going to be compile. That's it. That's it. That's all we do. We have now emitted a compile event. So this control bubbles up. This control bubbles up. We don't need to import these things. We don't need to import these things. Okay, excellent. So now in our app, this is the problem, right? This is the problem. So in our app, we probably want to say on, it's hard to do these things cross. So on compile, we want to run some code, right? We can do this. We can do this. This is a good proof of concept. Does this? No? Does that not work? Emit, compile. COMPILE. This is the problem with named text events. They're really hard if you misspell them. It's not really obvious what's going on anymore. Makes it tricky, makes it tricky. Okay, so this one says, have I missed something? At enlarge text equals. Okay, maybe it just doesn't like alert. Can I just say console.log? How does this go if I hit compile? Okay. Context alert is not a function. Yeah. So now we console log. Beautiful. That's better. That works a lot better. This button is now wired up to something. So we emit an event and that flows down. So what we really want to do here, is to be able to say, when this happens, we want to trigger some behavior. We want to extract the code from the editor, compile it in the using our compiler that's part of our WASM. Oh wait, no, the compiler isn't part of the WASM blob. This is a problem. This is a problem. Assemble, which is part of our WASM blob. Putting the compiler on the WASM blob has one minor hurdle, and it might actually have to compile to a separate WASM blob. That probably makes more sense. But we'll pretend we do it for now, right? This is going to be a fake compile, because we don't actually care about the behavior. We care about the flow of data. So if we can get the flow of data right, if we can get the state flowing between these things correctly, then we're happy. It doesn't actually matter if it's done properly, as long as we know that the data can flow to where it needs to flow. Okay. The other fun thing is you can imagine the kind of logic for moving through problems. We're gonna have to think about that if we want that to be a one-page thing or if it's gonna be many pages. Anyway, that's getting ahead of things. Okay, so, oof, that can actually. I'm having future visions about what this will look like. So, what do we have? We might need some kind of shared state that represents the compiled state, right? How do we get something from here? So let's say, Sigonal, you are late. Unfortunately, I've got some friends coming over, probably relatively soon. Any ETAs? I'm going to try and lock them down to a time so I can try and leave this stream at a good place. But of course, it will go on YouTube. This definitely feels like more of a YouTube stream. I unfortunately had to take a little break in the middle. But yeah, we're wiring up some front end using reactivity, and it's really cool. It's a lot easier than all the document.getElementById that I was using before. So I need to communicate events between components, which I might have painted myself into a corner, but that's okay. Content distribution. Slots, that's something else. Dynamic components, that's cool. Tabbed interface. Tabbed interface. That's actually what I've hacked together here. So we'll put a little pin in that. I need to remember where I am. Template parsing, case and sensitivity, self-closing tags, element placement restrictions. Restrictions on what elements can appear inside of them. Yep. Cool. Okay. Watches? No, that's not what I want. Watch source. Components in depth, registration events, component v model. This is where the content of the thing is bound to reactive stuff. You think self-closing tags are the worst part of HTML? Honestly, just make every tag explicitly closed. Where's the like future utopia? All the problems in the world are fixed meme, right? That's HTML without self-closing tags. It's just unnecessary. It's unnecessary complexity. Parent to a child. Yes, here we go. Pass data from the parent to a child. We use props. Imagine the case we have a large component tree, deeply nested, needs something from a distant ancestor. Yes. Here we go. So let's declare and pass them along. So actually, maybe this state actually needs to live in the parent because it's used in the parent, right? The root app owns the virtual machine. Maybe it needs to own this as well. The editor owns the display of it, but it doesn't actually own this data, right? It doesn't own any of this data. So maybe this does need to get passed in. That would make more sense. Provide and inject. Yeah, so I don't want to do this. I want to avoid this, if possible. I want to avoid this. Because this is very unnecessary complexity for what I'm trying to do. I just want to pass data through. Use knows what external. Define props. Props can be declared. Define props macro. Okay. But do we, so if I pass, can I pass a ref as a property? Can I do that? I must be able to do that. Dynamic assign, yes. Okay, so let's do this. Props, so. And props define props.foo. Yes, let's try this. I think they said this is a macro, not a function. So I don't know what that means, but let's try it. Let's say const props. Define props. Let's go for, I think it has a map version, right? Actually, let's just do a list. Let's call them ASM input, code input, and has binary. And let's call it bin text for the actual text of the binary. okay? Cool. So if props.hasBinary, vmodel is going to be props.asm input. It's going to be props.code input. And let's vmodel this as well instead of using mustache because I like it more. And it's consistent. Props.bin text. It's not an input, it's just the text. So what happens if I look at this now? It yells at me. Vmodel has me. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Mustache all the way, baby. Do I need spaces around this? Maybe not. Let's just do nice spaces just to be safe. Okay, cool. So now when we make our editor, first off, we're going to remake these things up here, right? We're going to remake this state inside another place. Import ref from Vue. So can I say ASM input equals no, wait. This, can I bind it to it? Yes. Cool. Okay, good. And then this is going to be the same. Code input equals code input state. Sorry, keeping half an eye on my phone while I go through this. Oh my gosh. Oh, whoa. Might be an aurora at the moment. If my stream dies, it's because there's electromagnetic interference. Oh my gosh. One of my friends is going to be early. This is unheard of. Okay, so code input, blah, blah, blah. For some reason, this has gone back to being wide. I don't know what I did. Hello? Did I break this? I broke it somehow. That's okay. I got rid of the class. There's a meteor shower here. Sigonal, where are you for there to be a meteor shower? That's amazing. I've never seen... Actually, no, that's not... I don't know if that's true. I'm not confident enough to say that's true. Oh, there's my class. I don't think I've ever seen a meteor shower. Let's say that. What's that property? Has binary equals has binary. What else do we get? We need bin text. Let's say bin text equals foo, and this is just fixed. Let's actually, in fact, say add a 0. Oh, I refactored all my instructions. So the destination is always the first instruction, and it makes things a lot clearer. It's really good. US Pacific. That's amazing. That's really cool. Shit. You're very lucky. I love it. Okay. So now we can do a thing. Now, when we compile, we can actually call a function. Let's say actually call a function that says compile, right? Do compile. I don't know. Let's do it. Let's make a function. Let's call it do compile. It takes no arguments, right? Because the arguments are this reactive state. So when we do this, let's just say let's just do something really silly as an example, right? Bin text. So these states are wired together, right? This editor is displaying this state from the parent thing. And when we compile, we'll just say bin text equals ASM input state. I think I can assign between them like this. I think. So if I hit compile, nothing happens. Because invalid assignment to const bin text, that's kind of important. There's a way to do this. It's not equals. Oh, hold on. We've got a controversial take in chat. Okay, we've got a hot take. I see no other god than Svelte. Dev Ninja. What makes Svelte so good? Svelte looks cool. I respect Svelte. I have no strong affiliation to any JavaScript front-end framework. I like Vue because it doesn't need a build step, but I'm obviously using it with a build step because I looked at the docs and I went, okay, I can either work this out and map everything into the like front-end only version, like browser only version, I guess, or I can just like suck it up and use a build step, and I chose to just suffer through using npm. Okay. Rare instance of me using npm. What was my error? I talked for so long I forgot what the error was. Oh, I can't assign, that's right. So Vue.js copy between refs. This is what I want. I want to copy from one to the other. Svelte has prettier syntax. I mean, I'm doing JavaScript like template stuff. I don't know, HTML JavaScript templates. I don't think any of them are going to be pretty, but I will have a look at Svelte and I will hopefully be impressed. Permissions, blah blah blah. Don't use refs to pass data. Props, blah 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 blah. Details. Okay, that's not actually what I want. Ref. What's the actual ref API? What's the ref API? Ref. Reusability, composer with built-in components, scaling up, best practices, TypeScript. I mean, maybe TypeScript would be useful here. Hey, reactivity fundamentals, ref. Here we go. Gives us a ref. Value that points to the inner value. So do I want to say dot value equals this dot value? Does that work? Can I do that? What error does this say? No? I mean, oh, and has binary equals true. Here we go. Now it works. Now it, assignment to constant has binary. Sorry, has binary value equals true. Now we can see the binary. Okay, so let's try A. Okay, so now if I compile this, we can see nothing happens. Because invalid assignment to const has binary. I don't know what that means. Also, we lost it. Still running jQuery on a site, definitely no shame. New landscape development. Crazy, you need 12 megabytes for Discord to load its JavaScript. Yeah, there's so much JavaScript bloat. jQuery is kind of awesome. How big is minified jQuery? How big is minified jQuery? If I want to download jQuery right now, how big is it? How big is this file? Download. Slim build. How big is this file? 68 kilobytes. Incredible. You don't download it. What do you mean you don't download it? Use a CDN. Well, it depends. It depends what you want, right? If it's 68 kilobytes, I don't think there's any real harm in bundling it with your page, right? I think, yeah, CDN's the worst of all choices. I kind of agree. I think unless your dependencies are massive, just bundle it. Honestly, if you've got like Discord levels of JavaScript bloat, then yeah, maybe there's some merit to using a CDN. But otherwise, like if it's 68 kilobyte jQuery, just bundle it. It's 68 kilobytes. You will literally be fine. I promise. I promise it'll be okay. So we're just going to put some garbage in here, and we're going to compile it. We're going to look at the binary. Now, when we do that, it resets the actual content for some reason. Why does this reset the content? That's not good. How am I going to update stuff? You update it. What if they update? Okay, so like here's another problem, right? If you use like a latest tag in a CDN, they can break your working code, right? Otherwise, if you point to a specific version, then you have the same problem. You need to update it. So I don't think this is really much of a concern. I don't think that's too much of a concern. Think of CrowdStrike. I think everyone currently thinks of CrowdStrike. Okay. So why does setup get called? It feels like setup gets called unnecessarily, right? Vmod, because I would think this thing, is this an ownership problem? I don't know. I'm confused already. I don't understand why. Are links allowed? Yeah. If jQuery gets an important security patch. But so are you pointing to, like, it depends what you're pointing to, right? But this can still possibly be a problem depending on how they deploy it and what version it gets deployed as. I don't know. This is a good point, right? There's merits to this. Are links allowed? Yeah, post a link. Please post a link to some good description. Sorry, I was thinking in the context of my page and I was like, what? So if I just type some stuff in here, right, and I go back and forward, it disappears. And I don't know why that is. And I think the reason is vmodel. I want to look at vmodel. Okay. Implement a two-way binding, right? Two-way binding. This is what I want. I want, when I type foo, I want this to persist here, right? I want whatever's inside this text area to persist when I go back and forth. I don't want that to happen. Because it shouldn't get set up. These are all set up. These should all get called once. Cool. I'll have a click on that in 1 second in chat. I want to see if I can work this out. vmodel, increment, model update, define model, vmodel, count model, vmodel. Value is synced with the value bound in vmodel. Let's bind this ref. Yes. Okay. So vmodel, view vmodel prop ref. This does look kind of cool. I'm going to have a look at this real quick. I'm probably going to have to wrap up in a second with this broken, which is a bit sad. I'm going to reject all your things. What is this? Hyperplate. Most of the stuff. Elixir Phoenix. So this is, cool. Hype rate, not hyper rate. So let's look quickly at, oh wow. Copy link address. Nice, that's lovely. This is the whole component. Custom written WebSocket handler for Elixir Phoenix. Wow, that's really cool. That's surprisingly small, and I love it. I love small bundles, small JavaScript, small components. That's cool. I should make a web component out of my virtual machine, because I imagine you can just put like a WASM like base64 blob in there as a string. Yeah. Semver states this, right? But imagine they mess it up and they deploy something that has a breaking thing by mistake in a patch version, right? I guarantee you this has happened in CDNs and broken sites. Yeah, how many people do you know that do Semver properly? Exactly, right? Semver is famously subjective. If they mess it up, it's that. So this is the other thing, right? Okay, so it depends on your the context you're working in. If you're trying to deliver the best outcomes, then this doesn't hold water. If you're working in a bank and you need to do risk write-off, then you want to defer that risk, because if something blows up and you get taken to court and your banking license is questioned, like your legal right to be a bank, you want to be able to say, we did everything we could, it's not our fault, right? Like, but also, actually, the banking example is bad because they do vendor all their dependencies, because malicious dependency injection is so severe in a bank that they can't really do it. Every Rustation. Yeah, Rust is a bit of a different breed. If Rust gets more mainstream popularity, less people will do Semver properly in cargo crates, right? This is the natural way of things. Rust only does it well because they're small. So this worked when these refs were not referenced through props. This is what I'm seeing right now. I don't know why props breaks this. How to assign a prop to a ref without changing the prop? No. I want the opposite of this. Right? Rust is not small, but compared to JavaScript, right? JavaScript, Python, much bigger than Rust. I don't know how much bigger. I struggle to quantify it. I can't remember, but an order of magnitude, like it's a lot more. It's a lot more popular, right? Rust is comparatively small. It's also it's big, you know. by 30 years ago standards, it's probably big. So ref, ref, can I ref? No, but this already is a ref. I'm confused. This is what I'm saying. I'm confused. To ref. Yeah, copy. I want this to... If an object is assigned as a ref's value, the object is made deeply reactive. If the object contains nested refs, they will be deeply unwrapped. That's what I want. That's what I want. Reactive proxy of the object. So that's not what I want. Okay, I'm gonna have to go. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, but I now have to entertain company. So it's been good. We got some stuff done. We made a bit of beginning progress, and this is going to be much more significant for people watching later. Thanks for tuning in. JS devs are constantly moving to Rust. I disagree with this. I disagree with this a lot. It happens, but not all the time. Anyway, I'm not going to throw anyone to a raid because I really have to go. Cheers, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.